So what's everybody's background here, Pug? So what do you? We obviously come from me and Jason being predominantly movie and like video game YouTubers and kind of on the TikTok side, and then generally I've made music in the past. I know Peter obviously does
Mhm.
reactions and focuses on like TV shows and stuff along those lines as well, and movies. What do you find yourself your passion to be?
It's definitely music.
Okay. Oh,
I've been doing this Hipster Pug project for 5 years now.
okay.
I started with more like lo-fi and down-tempo music, and since 2020, I guess I've been more to the ambient and neoclassical side of music.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. And what? So I have only dabbled in some of those things, particularly lo-fi. I like. What is your what? Obviously, it sounds like you kind of like that dreamy feel. It sounds like based on the kind of genres that you've hit. Do you find that
Yeah.
do you find that your taste has evolved significantly over time, or do you find that like you do have one specific genre and then you just go to the subgenres within that?
The thing is, like, it changes from time to time. There
Okay.
are moments that I really can enjoy some indie music and some indie pop and some dream pop and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's moments that I can only listen to like ambient music and movie soundtracks and stuff like that, or neoclassical music. So it
Okay.
changes with time, and sometimes I go back to the more popular music, and sometimes it's more jazz. So it switches all the time.
Okay, one that's yeah, I find myself in a similar place. One thing that I do like to ask people is do you think that your emotions are more dictated by music or that the music you choose is more dictated by your emotions?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think it's more like I chose music that goes with my feeling at that moment. So yeah, I think that is what I go for.
Okay, yeah, the reason
Um,
I ask is because I always have kind of just gone towards somewhat like sadder music. And there is kind of
mhm.
some truth to it to be like, yeah, no, if you listen to an upbeat song in a moment where you're particularly down, especially if it's a song you resonate with, then it can bring you out of that space. But I also find that there's
Yeah.
a unique thing that like you can also relate to somebody. Like I love like Mac Miller is a rapper and he did various genres at certain times and he like had particularly sad music a lot of the times and I found it that it helped me in moments of sadness to connect to somebody and know like, oh, there's somebody else out there that feels what I feel. And so some people have kind of even, I mean, in some cases demonized me for being like, oh no, I think it's okay to listen to sad music when you're sad because people will say, oh no,
Mhm.
it will just make you more depressed or something along those lines. So I find it to be an interesting kind of debate there. But it was
Yeah.
so yeah. What music wise have you been doing the most lately or been engaging with most lately?
Lately I've been listening to more like indie music, I would say, like the Phoebe
Okay.
Bridgers kind of music.
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you.
That is very different from what kind of music I make myself, but
Okay.
I'm really interested by her album from 2020. Also
Yeah.
Nick Cave. I don't know why, but I love Nick Cave's music, especially his later music, like since 2013, 2016, something like that. Um, it's really sad and really depressing, but it's beautiful, really beautiful.
I feel like we were recommended a Nick Cave for a song a long time ago that we reacted to and it was actually very good. So, no, there's a do you find yourself to be more enamored by say like older school music or do you think that newer school is more your thing or does it not really matter? You just like what you like?
It's more like I like.
Mhm.
I'm more likely to listen to more older music than modern music because I think that sounds a little bit too much, too same. Especially with the more popular music.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, if I'm going to listen to music, it really doesn't matter if it's old or new, or it's just like how I feel and what I want to listen to.
Okay, and then when it comes to your own personal music that you make, are you are you I don't sorry I'm not too familiar. Are you an instrumentalist or do you work with just like on DAW systems with MIDI? How do you typically do stuff?
No, it's with dolls, but it's all instruments, so
Oh,
almost no vocals. And if I use vocals, it really needs to have a use for it. Like, um, what I find important with my music is that it's telling a story
okay.
with help from music and instruments and stuff like that.
Okay.
But sometimes you just want to use lyrics or vocals to tell a little bit more of the story for that album or that project that I'm working on, and then I use vocals. But otherwise, it's almost always instrumental.
Okay, no, that's really interesting because I do find that today there is this kind of thing where vocals dominate certain aspects of music now, and you know, you used to have a lot more of the instruments being the thing that dominated it, and particularly now you'll also see a lot of these like lyricists use pretty much a lot of the same exact things over and over again, but to really convey a particular emotion with just the instruments is always like far more fascinating to me, especially because you really can create an intense narrative just based off of like, you know, different instruments and how they're working in tandem at the same time, etc. Would you do you find it easier to be to write yourself out lyrically, or do you find it just very naturally comes to you for like conveying yourself through instruments?
It's difficult sometimes with instruments too, because like sometimes I have an idea in my mind like how I want it to sound, and I don't get it sound like how I want it. Like the piano is too loud, or the violin is not getting to that sound that I want to, or like I use a bass and that bass is also like not what I want it to be.
Yeah.
But once I have it and I start working on something and I have a bass for a song, most of the time it just works. Like it goes in a flow. Like okay, I have a bass now. I can build up from that, and
Yeah.
I think I can tell my story now with this bass and with the instruments that I'm using.
Okay, and then do you think that typically, like, do you find something that you find like a riff or a certain melody, etc., and then you build the narrative around it, or do you have a narrative in mind and then you go try to find the melody or whatever that would match it?
Uh, yeah, that depends too.
True.
No,
I get
no.
that.
Most of the time, I try to build something up. Like I have an idea what I want it to sound,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's just like an ARP that you can create, and that sounds perfect for like a bass or like a line for music. And
Yeah.
from that on, I can move on. But sometimes it's just pure luck, and you start playing something, and you get something. You'll be like, "Yep, this is it. This is going to be the next song," and I start
Absolutely.
building
Yeah.
from that on.
Yeah, those are I love moments too where I've worked with people over Discord and stuff sometimes to kind of like I'll have either a melody in mind and they'll be a little bit more in tune with how to, you know, create craft beats and whatnot. And there is a really fun part
Mhm.
too of like that jam session feel where like, you know, one person
Oh yeah,
throws out something and you have something that can layer on top of it so perfectly. It's almost like this
yeah.
symbiosis that comes between each musician. It's really fun. Do you predominantly just work solo? Do you collaborate regularly? What is your stance there?
Like I said, I don't use a lot of vocals, but if I use vocals, I try to find the right person for it. So
Okay.
I released an album or an EP last year, what is called Nouveau Chapitre, what is French for new chapter.
Okay.
And especially for that album, I really wanted to do an introduction song with lyrics, but in French. And I'm
Okay.
a Dutch person myself, so I don't speak French very well.
Okay.
And then I was looking on Twitter for some vocals or for some people that could do vocals for it, and I found the right person for it. And I'm still super proud of the result that it is right now. The song.
Okay. Yeah.
And otherwise, yeah, no. Most of the time, I try to work alone because this is going to sound very how do you say it, like egoist, like ego. But
Egotistical. It's
I know
okay. You're
what I
fine.
want.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know what I want, and I know what story I want to tell.
Yeah.
So I most of the time work alone.
No, that makes perfect sense. I feel like for me personally as well, like I'll usually I don't have I'm trying to build up my skill with like learning how to craft beats, but for the most part, I predominantly work on the lyrical side. So I personally like am usually not going to do anything that was written for me just because I feel like there's some albums that I hear that do things that I have thought of better than I ever could.
Yeah.
But even so, it's like they
Mhm.
did that. Let that be their thing. And like if I'm not
Yeah.
doing it in my own way, why should I put it out? I should let whoever's thing it is do that. You know. Um,
Yeah, no, that's true.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yeah, and one thing I find interesting too is kind of the cultural influences in a lot of European music lately. Is there is a lot of crossing between the different countries and different languages and sorts of things, and we do get that here in America with like you have the Spanish and English music that crosses the Mexican border into America and vice versa, and that's getting bigger than ever with certain artists. Like I'm sorry, I forgot.
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny, yeah. And obviously it started back in the day with Selena, but I think that there is this kind of like
Or Shakira, actually.
Shakira. Oh yeah, that's it.
Shakira is the one that
Yeah.
really kind of brought this.
Well, I
Spanish
remember,
music.
yeah.
Or
there's-
Ricky Martin back in the day.
Yeah,
was
there's a
another
few
one.
that really did it. Yeah.
Enrique Iglesias, another one.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, I remember Enrique Iglesias is much more pop. Much more pop. I didn't
Well,
care for him
he
as much.
did that Hero song. It was pretty decent.
That's true.
I mean, I enjoyed it.
It was an okay song. I'll give you that. But I find it really funny and not enough funny, but fun and interesting to see those like cultural crossovers, especially with like I can't remember what it is, but don't you guys have in Europe have like some sort of America's Got Talent type of like singing
Eurovision?
show? Yeah, like that's
we have
really
a lot.
interesting.
Yeah,
We
we're
have
in
a
that
lot.
too.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah,
not,
no,
it's
like
not just Europeans, it's Europe and Australia, mate.
oh, hey, listen.
Right.
Does Australia exist? I can't remember. Is that a country or a state?
Yeah, we're in Europe.
Oh, okay. My bad. That's on me. Yeah, no. Listen. I'm not too familiar with the TV shows over there or who they're
Yeah,
associated.
we
Oh,
just
is
found out
Canada in
about
that?
Bluey.
Wait,
That
is
was the
Canada-
first one that we kind of
Dude,
discovered.
Bluey is
I
big.
think we're in Eurovision, aren't we, Pug? They
Sorry?
added us this year, didn't they? Didn't they add Australia to Eurovision this year?
Yeah, they really want Australia, but you don't want to.
Is Canada part of that, or is Canada on its own thing above us?
No,
Yeah, no,
Canada
no.
is for you. We're America.
No, that makes sense. But they use that
Yeah, you guys
damn
have to
British
deal with that.
currency. I think right. But yeah, no, I love seeing like the different, especially the different like influences on the instruments that the different cultures have. Like the Spanish guitar that has been weaved into a lot of like American forms of music, particularly like rap and stuff like that, has been really interesting to see. And also, that's the one thing that makes me personally love music quite a bit, is that it's almost like with movies, the possibilities are to a degree endless when you're constantly having the mixing and matching of cultures, instruments, lyrics, everything else. It seems like it can always be ever changing.
I stay out of my head to the depths of the